thing I want to say is, wow, this is just humbling and exciting at the same time. Thank you so much for coming out tonight. I thought with the weather and the cold and the snow and all of that, it would be a diminished crowd. But look at this. Wow, this is incredible. Thank you. Thanks for coming out. In fact, I was thinking, I'm sure if there are Baptists in the area, they're probably driving by looking at this parking lot filled with cars thinking, something bad's going on. Something bad. I mean, a Catholic church full of people on a Monday night. A Catholic church full of people on a Monday night. This is awesome. Thank you. Thanks for coming. As we launch into our three-night mission, there are a couple of housekeeping things that I want to just hit upon before we begin. It's just tonight, and that's it, so we get it done with. The first thing I want to say is when you came in, you probably received an envelope. Thank you. They're too busy texting. Okay. So this envelope, it's pretty obvious kind of what it's about. It's about two things. The first, as you can see, for the support, all the work we do, as Denise mentioned, has been sent to missioners. It's all because of the people we work with. We support us and help us. We charge nothing, we never have, because St. Vincent de Paul, who founded us, he started this ministry, and what he said is that when we go out preaching Jesus Christ, that we must do as Jesus did, which is to say we rely on the kindness of the people we serve to continue what we're doing. So just as Jesus charged nothing, he just went, did his ministry, and then asked for help, a bed, food, things to keep him going so we could continue. That's what we do. So your generosity, your kindness is so appreciated, and we thank you very deeply. I do, for that. It keeps this ministry alive and going. And one of the best parts about that, too, as an aside, is we go to places like this, obviously, but also we as Vincentians go to places that cannot get anyone to come in for a mission or a retreat because they're either so rural, it's hard to say, but so rural and or so poor that they can't afford to do anything at all. So guys can't go. We do, because of people like yourself, again. So we love being able to respond to the poorer places, and you help us do that. So thank you for that, very deeply. If it's a check, it's just made out to Vincentians. Again, it's on the envelope. And if you do write a check, all we ask is that it have 5 zeros. I mean, a whole number and then 5 zeros, not just. No. Anyway, God bless you, and thank you so much for that consideration. Also, the other part is the intentions, and this is what we love. What we do is, every mission we go out on, we ask people for their prayers that they are praying for so that I can take them back, and then my brother priests and myself can pray with you for whatever it is that you're lifting up to the Lord. So what happens, all these envelopes I take back with me, open each one individually, I do it. And all of anything that's written, there is a place on the top of the envelope where if you'd like to use that for your intention or prayer, if you have more than that, put it on a paper, put it in there. So I read all of these, whatever you put. Your prayers, your intentions, I gather together, and then at our altar at home where I live, in St. Louis, we have a glass urn. It's our prayer urn. And we place your intentions, your miracle requests, is what we call them. We place them in the urn. And every morning we have prayer at 7:30 and Mass at 8, and we literally lift up in prayer, chanting, asking the Lord to answer that which you are also lifting up to the Lord. So the idea being, the more of us that can support and help one another and lift those prayers up like incense, the better. And so that's what we do. In fact, there are two guys. I lived with 21 other Vincentian priests. 21 of them. Makes me want to... Well, anyway. So, but two of the 21 guys, their whole ministry is nothing more than praying for that which is in our urn. That's their whole ministry. Lifting up in prayer during the day, your prayers. We get letters, we get texts, we get, such beautiful responses from people, and we're so delighted and happy to be able to pray for you. So anything it is that you might be praying for, let us know. Just put it in that envelope, write it on there, and then dump it into the collection. I think there's one tonight and last night. Okay? Are there any questions about any of that? Again, as an aside, in the future, if there are any prayers come up after Wednesday, I'll be gone. You'll have my website, the email. You can email me whatever prayers those are, and I will do the same. Such a beautiful ministry. We love it. So that's what those envelopes are for, and thank you for that. The second housekeeping thing, a parish mission. If you've never been to a parish mission before, or at least a Vincentian mission, most people come to things to get things. You know, I mean, you go to the theater to be entertained, to get entertainment. You go to classes to be educated. People oftentimes come to missions to get something as well. Everybody who makes time for God receives blessing. That is true. But that's not why we come to mission. Mission is not about getting, it is about giving. So we take the time out of our hectic, busy lives to come here in this house of prayer to give ourselves in time to Jesus. Recognizing that he is worth this and so much more. Those things that we rarely do because we don't have time. So we come to give thanks and to open our hearts. However the Spirit of God might lead you, and I have no idea how. It might be tonight, it might be Wednesday, it might be next week, even next month. I get letters from people far after the mission. You know, it's like I went to the mission, and it was good, you know, whatever, it didn't. But then 3 weeks later, all of a sudden, there was a connection to something for them, and it just lifted their spirit in a way that they had to tell me. You know, and that's how God works. We want to kind of expect something like, okay, God, I'm ready, give it to me. And that's rarely when God gives. So it is good you are here. Absolutely. These next 3 evenings, we're going to be giving ourselves to God. God's going to give back somehow. I'm not sure. But be ready for it. Having said that, the theme of this mission, these next 3 nights together, as you know, is called the joy of living. So we're going to look at that thing that we're all searching for so deeply in our lives. That joyfulness, happiness. How is it that we might move closer and closer to that reality, to have it expand in our lives? The joy of living this gift. How? We're going to look at it for 3 nights. So tonight we're going to open up the theme of the joy of living by just giving an image and kind of a structure for the next 2 nights. And then tomorrow night and on Wednesday night, we're going to get much more detailed about that. We're going to be talking about a number of things, ways that we can direct our life more beautifully to God. Prayer and service and scripture and joy. We're going to be telling stories about an encounter I had in a Walmart bathroom. It's clean, but I mean, it was all, and it's on prayer. It's very weird. But anyway, just a whole lot of stuff coming the next 2 nights in the practical way. But tonight, it's just framing it so we know where we're going. Okay? Lastly, If you were here on the weekend, you know that each evening of the mission, these next 3 nights, it's not going to go on and on. It's going to be no more than 2 hours. No more. No, I'm talking 45 minutes, 50 at the tops. And I even have my watch, my clock thing right here to remind me. So I'll be right on cue. And if I'm not, just raise your hand. Okay, that's it. The joy of living. Oh, wait a minute. First, are there any kids here tonight who were at Mass this morning? Raise your hand. Okay. So you guys got to help me with the you-know-what at the end. Okay? You know what I'm talking about? Okay. I know you're adults, that's very weird. But I'm going to start with the gospel. This is from the 25th chapter of Matthew. Every message that Jesus gives, most every message he gives, is in parable, in story. He used story all the time to communicate a higher truth. And in this parable, like all parables, there's so much symbolism, things stand for something. In this parable, I always use it to open the mission, there is a servant, which is you and I, and there is the master, our God, our Father. So Jesus in this gospel is telling this story, helping people understand the most important dynamic of loving and living a life in God. Here it is. It will be like a man going on a journey who called in his servants and entrusted to them his property. To one servant he entrusted 5 talents, to another 2, and to a third 1, each according to their abilities. And then the master went away. Well, the servant who received the 5 talents went at once in gratitude and traded and invested what he was given and made another 5 for his master. So also the servant with the 2 traded, invested, and made another 2 for his master. But the servant who received the 1 talent, he went and dug a hole in the ground where he buried his master's treasure. Well, after a long absence, the master of those servants came back to settle accounts with each of them, just as our master will with each one of us when our time comes. The servant who received the 5 talents came running forward, bringing the additional 5 that he had made. "Master," he exclaimed, "you entrusted me with 5 talents, and look what I have done. I've made another 5 for you." And his master smiled and said to him, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Come now and share your master's joy." So the servant went running into the kingdom of joy. Heaven, right? That's the analogy. Then the servant who received the 2 talents came running forward. "Master, you delivered me 2 talents, and I've made another 2 for you." And his master looked at him with joy and said, "Well done, my good and faithful servant. Come, share your master's joy." And he went running in. Well, then the servant with the 1 talent stepped forward. No running there. He steps forward, kind of cautiously. "Master," he said, I knew you to be a hard man, and out of fear, I went and hid your talent in the ground. But here it is back in full. You know, lost nothing, even Stephen. And his master looked at him and said, "You wicked, lazy servant. You did nothing with what I gave you? At least you could have invested my gifts with the bankers who could have made investments. You there, take the talent away from this servant and give it to the servant with the 10. And throw this worthless, lazy servant out into the darkness where he can wail and grind his teeth. Don't you just love those uplifting gospel stories? See, this is so much better than the Housewives of Beverly Hills, isn't it? This makes you feel good. Now, not to be minimal, but I chose this gospel, as I always do, to begin missions. I don't care how many times I've been to a place, because it's so important. It kind of, in a way, holds together that singular truth that if we live by, we will have nothing to worry about. You know, that truth about receiving in gratitude, recognizing the gifts we've been given, being thankful, and then choosing to give the gifts back to the master who gave them to you. To make something beautiful with the gifts you've been given for your master. And if our life is about that, then we'll have nothing to worry about. We will be received by our master just as these servants did, with joy and gratitude, and receive all kinds of reward. It doesn't matter how much you make or what you do or where you go or any of that. None of that matters. The only thing that matters, did you try? Did you live your life for me, or did you live your life for you? That's it. That's all it's about. Our theme, as you know, is the joy of living. I'm going to get back to this gospel in just a little bit. But I want to start by telling you this, my friend. I have a good friend. Well, I did have a good friend. His name was Mark. Mark and I went through school together for many, many years. And when we got to just past college, then our paths changed. He went one way, I went another, but we stayed in contact, still great friends. And one of the things Mark and I always did when we were going through school, just as enjoyment, is on our birthdays, which were separate, is I would get him a lottery ticket for his birthday, and he would get me one for mine, with one for himself. So twice a year on our birthdays, we'd both get the ticket, and we'd both get out the quarter and start scratching ever so slowly, because we only had one ticket, a piece. So we'd, you have to get 3 of the like numbers, and you win that amount, and you have 6 tries. So you scratch off that first one. Mark would scratch off his. What is it? $10,000. Oh, we're going to get it. Second one, free ticket. Free ticket, and so we kind of go down. And inevitably, on the scratching of the tickets, when you get to like 4, you'd always have 2 of the big prize, right? So if the ticket was worth $10,000, you'd always have 2 $10,000 and still have 2 tries. I don't know how they do that, but they do. And then inevitably, you get nothing, or $1. Wow. Oh, does anyone have a Powerball ticket? I forgot to mention, if you want, you can put that in the envelope. Okay. If you win, you can put that right in there. I'm going to take good care. No, but it's kind of Powerball, but it was always the scratch-offs. Well, anyway, never won much. When our paths separated and all that, we would send one another a lottery ticket from the state that we lived in. Kind of fun. I got one from Mark. He was in Arizona. This was a year and a half ago, I think it was, 2 years ago. I get, on my birthday, an Arizona lottery ticket. And it was for $50,000. So a lot of money, but not over the top. I get it, and in honor of the way that we always did it, I got out the quarter and very slowly started to scratching. And 4 scratches, I got 2 of the $50,000. So then you pause, then you think, okay, now if I win, what am I going to do? You kind of get all excited, you daydream. Maybe you let the ticket sit there for an hour or two. You kind of work it. You marinate in all that joy. Then you come back and the 5th one, free ticket, pause again. But this time, this was 2 years ago, after I was here that first, scratched off the 3rd one, $50,000. Yeah, $50,000. And there was this explosion of something within me, but I held it down thinking, no, because this isn't true or something, but when I looked it over, it's got all that little print. Arizona lottery. And then all of a sudden it started coming out. I was like, oh my God, oh my God, oh! And I started dancing and running through my house. At that time, I lived with 34 other guys. I was tearing down the hallway. I'm like, oh my God, oh my God. Yeah, what's going on? I won the lottery! I won the $50,000, sucker! You're not. And you're getting none of it! No, but oh man, I was through that house, I was yelling. I call Mark, naturally. Wait, it goes to his voicemail. It's like, oh God, he never answers the phone. He's 16, And I was like, hey, Mark, oh my God, you'll never call me. I want oh my gosh. Go down for meals in my house. We have a dining room down there. I'm telling everyone, I'm telling the cooks that are back there, oh my gosh. Get to that evening. Kind of settle down a little bit. Because you have to mail, I'm like, how do you even get the money? I live in Illinois, in Chicago, and this is in Arizona. So I look on the back, and it's like, to redeem the ticket. Oh, yeah. So I get the envelope, and I get it, and to redeem, send to your mama. Send to your mama. 435, you're an idiot lane. Oh my. Which is why I said Mark is no longer. And he never will be again. Oh my gosh. Talk about deflation. It's like I get down the next morning to breakfast down, the guys are down there, of course, the guys I live with. And they're like, oh man, did you sleep at all last night? And so I'm trying to, well, yeah, I did, no problem. And they're like, oh, so what are you going to do with the money? I just told them, well, I'm going to give it to your mama. Your mama. Oh man, that was horrible. But it reminded me of that, which kind of we're leading into these next 3 days, that joy and that happiness. We're all looking in one form or another for that kind of high on the mountaintop experience. I felt it when I thought I won all that money. Money has a way of doing that, I guess, sadly, but it does. But there's a lot of things in our life that command our attention and says, you take me and you're going to be happy. And it's the thing we're all searching for. Everyone in this church, and me, it is what drives every choice and every decision we make. Happiness, joy, however minuscule and however big. And it makes sense because this is what the catechism, of the Catholic Church So it's the thing that we know and that describes everything about our faith. So this is the first chapter of the first section, the first thing the Catechism says. And it says, man, humankind, was created for happiness. Happiness is resting in the presence of God. God made us for happiness. The more we are directed towards and turn our life to the God who created us, the more we will achieve and taste the very thing we're all searching so deeply for. That joy. I was at a Barnes & Noble not long ago because someone on a mission somewhere I was at was telling me about this book, and I forgot the title of it. But she was going on and on about it, something about happiness or something, and it changed her life and all this. So she wrote it down, but I lost it. So I thought, well, let me see if I can remember it just by kind of maybe glancing at those books to see if it kind of pops up. So I go into the Barnes & Noble, and I'm kind of like, okay, well, where do I begin? Kind of deal. It's like a mosquito in a nudist colony. Like, where do I begin here? So there's a girl who came up who was working at the store, and real bubbly, real, ebullient, and she says, "Oh, can I help you?" And I said, "Yeah." I said, "I'm looking for a particular book." And she goes, "Oh, okay, you come to the right place." Those over-the-top happy people. And I was like, "Oh, okay." And she goes, "Well, what's the title of the book?" And I go, "Well, that's why I'm not exactly sure." And she said, "Oh, no problem." She goes, "Who's the author?" And I said, "Well, I don't know that either, actually." And she says, "Are you kidding?" And I said, "No, I thought I could maybe recognize it." She goes, "What's it about?" And I go, "Well, it's kind of about happiness." And her face kind of just turned, and she's like, "Oh," like this. And I was like, "Well, someone as happy as you are, it surprises me, And she goes, no, she goes, "It's not that." She goes, "It's just that section is so much work for us." I was like, "What do you mean?" She goes on to explain that over the course of year after year, sometimes months after months during the season, that they have to move all of the books to make more space for books on happiness, joyfulness, people searching, self-help, spirituality, that whole section. As she's leading me to it, she's telling me about this. She goes, "God, it's such a pain, so much work." So I go there, and she goes, "Here's the happiness section." So there's a whole section, how like in sports, there's tennis and basketball, which makes sense. But happiness, that's the thing now, that's a section. So I go there, and I was overwhelmed with the books that were there. I took a picture of just one section. I was like, "Oh my gosh, I'll never find it." But I just snapped to shut. Here's some of them. This is just right back to back like this. The Happiness Project, Instant Happy, Happier at Home, The Happy Book, The How of Happiness. I Can Make You Happy. He doesn't look like it. But A Short Guide to a Happy Life. How one of you can bring the two of you together. 10% Happier. It just goes on and on and on. The book, by the way, that she was mentioning was The Happiness Project, which I did read, and it's not bad. But anyway, confirming that which we all know, that hunger, that desire. Companies have filled in trying to give the answer. from cars to lawyers to divorces to you can get an abortion here for this, you can get these clothes and you're going to move right beyond all that sadness, etc., etc. In fact, just not long ago I saw this horrible thing on the television. Maybe you saw it. It was the commercial for Taco Bell's breakfast. Have you seen that? The taco waffle? No, the breakfast taco. Have you seen that? It's disgusting. I mean, just watching it. It's a waffle, and then they fry it up so that it's formed like a taco. Right? It's got the square holes and all that, but it's formed up and stiff. And then they shove inside of it, eggs. It's this yellow stuff. They fill it on one side and it lays like a pillow to one edge of the taco. On the other edge lies planks of sausage on the other side. And then in between the two, to bring them together in this harmonious marriage of nutrition, they dump this cheese sauce, this yellow, goopy stuff. It just fills it, and then it just comes out on the side. So when you get it, then you eat it, and it just starts dripping down your hands, and it's like 1,000 calories and 500 grams of fat. Oh, it's delicious. It is so good. It's got everything, the sweet, the savory, the crunch. But, Taco Bell finally figured, and they call it, the tagline is something like, breakfast that will make you smile. Yeah, breakfast that makes you smile. And I gotta say it did. But fast food is coming in, all of this stuff commanding your attention to say, do this and you're gonna be happy. And we all know the truth and the reality of those things. It doesn't. It is a specious claim that it's like, Chinese food. You eat it, you're full for a second, and then you're back at the fridge. You're looking, like me with the lottery ticket. You move up there and you're all elated, and then you realize it's not lasting. Bringing it back again, why we're here and why we need this, is because we know at our deepest levels as people of faith, you and I all know what the Catechism says at the very beginning. It is God who will feed us that which we need at the deepest level, that happiness. What is it, St. Augustine, who says, our hearts are restless, O Lord, until they rest in you. When my life is directed towards you, I will find it. And sometimes we're good. Sometimes we're right there and we're connected at that friendship level, and we feel the effects of that kind of friendship with Jesus. But then at other times we get scattered and pulled other ways. We kind of are intoxicated by other allurements of happiness, and we go off, and then we go off here. You know who else always did that? The Israelites, our ancestors. The same thing you do and the same thing I do, they did when God broke into history and established the relationship. But it even goes back before that, at the beginning of Adam and Eve, the beginning of all that was created, and Adam and Eve in the garden, and it is a God who says, I got some good news. Everything here is for you. For your enjoyment and happiness. It's all for you. Enjoy it. Much like God has given to all of us. The people you're sitting next to, the air we're breathing, the freedom we live in, all this goodness. Enjoy it. It is my gift to you. Just one thing. This thing is not for you. Do not eat from this thing. Everything else is yours. Go for it. And what happens? For a while, they're enjoying all of this goodness, but the thing calls them. In form, it is evil and devil that says to them, as the devil says to us every day, hey, psst, I got some good news for you over here. Come. And Eve says, no, we were told that's, oh yeah, but why? I mean, what's a tree? What's an apple? And starts breaking them down. And suddenly, you're God. You can choose yourself. Come on. And she plucks the apple. The allurement of happiness that is really, in reality, about evil. The Israelites, they're right with God, and when bad things begin to happen to them, what happens? They turn from God and they look to other gods who promise greater things than the Israelites' God. They're just looking. They don't care. Hey, they hear this. Yeah, that sounds great. And they turn from God and they go there. God wants to be in relationship. Still does, with all of us. Gives every opportunity for you and me to turn to him, as he did to them. And so then they turned back. And when they turned back to God, what happened? They received all of this bounty and goodness, favor and blessing, filled their lives, and they were like, yes, this is it. And then what happened? Weeks later, suddenly things weren't going so well, and they started searching again. It's the history of our lives. They did it, Eve did it, we did it. So that is why the next couple of days, we're going on mission here. We're going to be talking about ways that we can keep ourselves tuned and focused upon God. Especially at those times in our life when we get broken and when we start searching and lose attachment. How do we get back there? That's where we're going to go. So I want to end by offering you this image. It is the sunflower. I bring it to all of my missions. I have these things all over my room at home where I live. And the reason is because, now I've always thought they were beautiful, right? I mean, who doesn't? But I was in Kansas, this was a number of years ago, driving, and again, bored, but driving, and then all of a sudden this field of sunflowers opened up. They were all in full bloom like this. Now, this is fake. $9.99 at Hobby Lobby. But they were like that, and huge and big and yellow, and there was a breeze blowing, so their little fingers, their little petals were just kind of moving, and it looked like the field was on fire. This yellow and orange, this movement and dance. So startled, I got off to the side of the interstate, and I got out on top of my car, and I just gazed for the longest time, just absorbing all of this beauty. It's fantastic to see if you've seen it before. Anyway, I get to the mission, and so I'm telling some people at the mission about this. And they were telling me that, oh yeah, Father, we see it all the time. Kansas is the sunflower state. Didn't know that. Because they grow them all over the place. So they started telling me, they're like, yeah, the sunflower, did you know that, they're telling me, that every day, every sunflower around the world begins every day facing east. And as the sun crosses and moves around the sky, they turn and they move following the movement of the sun from east to west over the course of every day. And then when the sun sets, they set and they're turned down at night. Until the next morning, where once again they're facing and poised east, anticipating the sun, longing for the sun, and when it breaks open and up, there they go again, drinking in as much as they can every day of the sun. Isn't that amazing? Did you know that? I didn't even. In fact, I was a little incredulous, and I thought, well, really? So when I got home, I got on YouTube and did a search, sunflower turns on all kinds of videos of that kind of thing, the fields of sunflower just turning, physically, their whole heads turning, taking it in. It's incredible. In fact, the Italian word for sunflower, some man told me, is girasole. I don't know if I'm saying it right, but girasole. And it means sunflower in Italian, but literally it means turn to the sun. Girasole. One lady told me at the end, she said something that just hit me so fantastic, which is why I have them now all over. She said, yeah, the sunflowers, they really are amazing. They're always turning themselves towards that which makes them most beautiful. And I love that line. They're always turning themselves towards that which gives them their radiance and beauty. They know at their deepest level, somewhere in all of that, they need the sun if they want to be this gorgeous, this beautiful. And so what do? They give themselves at every moment so that they can take as much in as they can. The servants in that gospel, that's what they did. That's what every disciple does. And they find happiness. The more we give ourselves and turn our lives more completely to Him, the more we receive the reward. The very thing we thirst for, we're given. Hope, is that what it is? Joy, contentment, peace, what is it? We turn to Him. We open ourselves to Him. And the next 2 nights, we're going to look at some practical ways of how to do that. So I leave you with this, my friends, is one thought to carry you through tomorrow. This is the homework. It rests on a truth that every movement towards something, every journey towards something is at the same time and must be a journey away from something. Right? Isn't that true? So you can't move forward while staying where you are. It's impossible. So it's important, as the sunflower knows and as people of faith know, I want to turn and move my life more completely to you, Jesus. Who doesn't want that? And that's good to know. But even important, more important, what do I need to let go of so that I can move towards Him? What do I cling to? What do I hold on to? Anger, fear, resentment, whatever it is. But we all hold on to things. That's why we're not there. So your homework tonight, what's one thing you need to let go of in your life right now where you are? Where you want to ask the Spirit of God to help you let go so that you can move more completely to Jesus, to the Son, and experience His beauty. Because you will. What is that? That's your homework. And then tomorrow night we're going to look at some practical ways of being able to do that in our everyday life. And that's where I'm going to tell you about the encounter at the Walmart bathroom. Okay? Sorry. But it's kind of a hilarious story. So anyway, thank you so much, my people, my friends, for coming tonight. This is where we're going for the next few days. Come on back tomorrow night. Brave the cold. I know you will. And I thank you for your presence here this evening.
Thank you, Father.